What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Hollywood Already Did It, your weekly movie podcast for movies that have been remade, redone, sequelized, done over and over and over again. Of course, I'm your host, Blake Schultz, and with me is Zane Guzelderly.
Hi, everyone.
And Terrence Tatum.
Hello, everyone.
And this week we are talking about the long-awaited, Zombieland 2.
Double Tap.
Yep. A movie 10 years past the original.
Yeah.
A loved movie at the time.
Correct.
I don't know that it really did anything innovative to the zombie genre, but it certainly proved that there was a comedy action side to it.
Well, this was a time before Deadpool, so this kind of like narrator breaking the fourth wall and just being like, maha, with you.
Being super meta.
Yeah,
while also being a zombie movie. Yeah.
That's what did it.
Right.
I think you could put that behind anything and have something like a fresh, hot take, and it's like, not really, you're just cheating. And you know, and that's communicating with the audience and making jokes that, only work and packaged that way and it's a comedy.
Right.
Which I can't name a zombie comedy before that, but I
think Shaun of the Dead would probably be the only thing that would come before that. Yeah.
But I think this one that was like the middle of everything with zombies.
Yeah.
And to have this like comedic beacon in the middle of it that still had serious beats and good action and high octane moments and kind of a rule set where I think the running gag with zombie movies for so long was like, well, everyone would just know what to do. Like, this isn't a threat. And to really have that kind of positioning made it feel very new and original. And we didn't get a lot of character-driven zombie stuff at the time. Then it was more thematic in its storytelling. Right. This was a lot more about the characters than in making the zombies a parable for something.
Correct. It was about these four, for the most part, those two characters in that world and how they got along. The zombies were kind of like the impetus for them to meet more so than the actual story thread. Yeah, no, I watched these both back to back today, so I was pretty...
Did you?
Yeah.
I love to do that normally. I purposely did not for this one because I just felt like this was going to be a cheap Sony cash grab, and they were going to repeat every joke and everything. Jokes. And I was wrong.
Yeah, I was pleasantly surprised. It felt like a sequel. And watching them back to back, you're like, oh yeah, like this would feel like the next continuation of this, and nothing really gets repeated. And they do call back to some moments, like you don't have to have seen the original one for this, but there are some small beats, some small jokes, or small things that happen that you appreciate more if you have seen that one pretty recently. Yeah.
It's a film that I just was not interested in right up until the firing of the pistol. Like I thought the marketing sucked. I thought that the jokes that they were using were just kind of like bland, and like I did not like. You guys are gonna have to help me. Her name, the blonde Madison, right?
Yeah.
I hated the idea of the typical dumb blonde being thrown in with the group that I already love. Like you already love these characters, and like to the first one, like the casting is unfucking.
Those four are great. Yeah,
and they like two of them. I don't know. Like they were all like somebody in their career, but they weren't at the levels they were now.
I think Woody was the biggest at that point in time. Woody was the biggest one. Yeah,
and now it's like, oh, they're all. I mean, like I don't know what Abigail Breslin has really done, but she.
I guess Little Miss Sunshine. Like it was weird because one of the trailers actually had like Academy Award winner, Academy Award nominee, Academy Award, like, and they all true. Yeah.
And the fact that they all came back and are still good in it too.
They are.
Like Emma Stone wasn't like
didn't miss a beat. No, they didn't.
It wasn't like Jennifer Lawrence and Phoenix, where it's just like, oh, I'm here.
Their way through the
and
movie.
Time to Kill Zombies.
They still seem like they were having fun, and a lot of times seemed like they were having fun putting those roles back on. Like Woody was having a ball.
Woody's always having fun, that's.
You could tell they've been wanting to make this movie.
Yeah.
There is a long production history of, we're going to do it, and then we aren't, and we're going to make this B-list knockoff show
TV show
on Crackle.
With
and now we're going to do this movie. But you're right. I kind of felt the same way. It was at first I was really excited about a Zombieland 2, and then I always feel, especially with comedies, if you wait 10 years, there's no point.
You've outaged
Anchorman 2, Zoolander 2.
Correct.
There's so many instances
where you've seen it go wrong.
They lose their way. They rehash the jokes.
And those jokes don't hit the same anymore.
It's a relic of a time that was.
Right.
And I think with Zombies 2, I'm so tired of that genre in so many ways. Like, since Zombieland, we've had
The Walking Dead.
Left 4 Dead series in video games, and the Walking Dead series in comics and television, and movie after movie after movie. And it's not a genre that lends itself to do anything beyond...
Or, be super creative. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know the rules and you can't mess with it. Which, to the extent for this one, and we'll get into it, I felt they were really trying to do that and didn't succeed. And that's ultimately why I felt it was so sloppy.
Got it.
It was good that the attempt was made because you're right. These movies are just so, like, I know exactly what I'm getting.
Yeah.
The fact that you're like, well, now we're going to break the rules. It's like, well, you can't really break the rules with zombies. It's like, you know.
Yeah, I mean, like, and there's no really, these formulas are tried and true. The only time that I've seen something that had changed was the Zack Snyder's Dawn of the Dead when he sped up when the zombies were.
So they ran.
They ran. That's the only.
Even that,
and then, and now
8 days later,
everyone does it. Yeah, or Z.
Resident Evil video game.
Yeah.
The Crimson Heads are like the third villain you fight.
Right.
Well, just when you think that there's something original being done in the film sense, Blake will always just be like, but that was this this, and I'm like, well, fuck, I didn't know that in the video game sense, but god damn it.
You're correct.
I mean, and that's the most frustrating thing, and I don't know, like, you should just go into this movie and shut your brain off, right?
You do. These movies are the unplug yourself from, like, reality and just have fun.
And the only thing I'm talking about in being sloppy, and it's not necessarily a spoiler, is how they start the movie. It's like,
it's the rules
a lot has changed.
Right.
Here's some unnecessarily thanks for coming back kind of like quips.
Over the top,
And here are the 3 new zombies.
Yeah.
There are Homers. They're dumb and don't do anything.
Right.
There are Hawkings,
Okay, yeah.
like Stephen Hawking's. They're smart.
Right.
And then there are ninjas.
Who just come out of
They're super fast
anywhere.
and silent, and they'll kill you super quick. Other than the Homers having like beats of comedic relief and just being there, the other 2 are not in the movie at all. There's no sense. There's no reason to tell me about these new.
Well, there's a Hawking once that appears once.
And does what?
It's when they're on the van, the one that's actually climbing the ladder, because she's calling out to him, Hawking, and it's because he's smart enough to climb the ladder.
Yeah, but I'm with Zane. I feel like there was a big missed opportunity where we could have seen
even tiers of fighting where it's like we take care of the Homers and then we take care of the Hawkings and then the ninjas are the last
like a Resident
one.
Evil style of like we go up the levels. But yes,
because we never really see a ninja. It would have been fun to get to Elvis's place and have one pop out. There was a lot of opportunities to play with the horror side of the horror comedy. Right. And instead, they really use that as an excuse to be like, well, there's this now
the bigger one,
even stronger one,
which I couldn't differentiate from the ninja because, like, it just seemed like they were doing the same thing.
Well, they don't really do a lot with the designs to change it. Like, I'll speak with Resident Evil again. The original zombies are just like the plain dead, decaying ones, and then when they get to the Crimson Heads, they have longer nails, they're hunched over, they have redder skin. We could have done some stuff in the creature design for us to visually
see the difference. Because for here,
again, we only do it with the Homer. It's just a big fat Simpson knockoff. So why not make the Hawking like stand and look around a little bit? It should act more like the Predator, and
that's the other
ninja
thing.
Should act more like a
in
xenomorph.
The description of it, she rips out a guy's eye and uses it on an infrared retinal scanner, and then gets in the room and kills him.
Right.
Even in your situation, like there's nothing at all smart at all, especially leading into the climax, which I'll admit, a Hawking would have figured out what was going on and not just
it was clear that there were no Hawkings in that group of horde that was there at the end.
So then are the T-800s, the Terminator, this 4th zombie they introduced that is then like the main villain of the movie.
You have to shoot in the head at least 10 or 15
times. And then have to basically crush its head.
It made it seem like you have to decapitate this one, right?
Highlander style.
Yeah, you get back into the original zombie rules that were decapitation or set it on fire. That was the basis for it.
So I guess it's not even them trying to change the rules. It's even
they're putting new stuff out there. It's just like, I guess you guys wanted them to show more, because the Hawking and the ninja both come back on that trailer sequence when they're there. The ninja is what attacks from underneath and gets the one character that you didn't like, and then the Hawking's at the top.
I don't think they do a good enough job distinguishing that.
That's the issue. I think if you're not hearing, they use dialogue to explain those, because they also scream it out, because they've been doing this for so long that now they've got a template.
These quippy little Deadpool names so that they can they can go, oh, it's just a Homer,
so they can call it out. But he's right, they don't have anything visually. And for the ninja and the Hawking and the Homer, you can kind of visually see the difference between the three of them, just the way they act. But it is difficult to see T-800s versus the ninjas because you're
then,
like, other than
those are the only,
if they're hoping that they're hulking,
that they do die and then get up instead of just die and stay down.
Yeah.
Because you look at it the way, I mean, even like Left 4 Dead did it, where it was like the boomers, the big fat one,
correct,
and this, because the T-800 evolving, I think, well, what's it evolving from? Is there a base zombie that then breaks into one of these three and then ends at a T-800, or are there just 4 classes of zombies that have come up from whatever mutation we have in this world? To not get bogged down too much in that rule, that was kind of my biggest, I guess, issue, was I was excited to see what these zombies could all do, and I think really with all the different set pieces they give you, you could have had a room of Hawkings to really see what they were capable of and how to fight it. A room of a ninja to really get a different tone.
I wanted the Hawkings at least to like get the one up on them and really make things difficult. And there's just like, oh, now they're climbing the ladder, or
and you could have made the climax more, I think, interesting that way. Of, well, now we have all of them in a room, and you're good with the homers, and you're good with this one, and you're good with that one. And
I think for me, the reason why that didn't bother me, or I never even concerned myself with that, is because especially watching them back to back, the first one is not a horror movie. It is a comedy first, and that's the beats that they hit first. So I didn't expect this to all of a sudden become like a strategic, like we need to find our way to how to get out of this room horror stuff. The comedy is what is centered, so it didn't even bother me
I
to
can make
do
the
with the
argument
horror.
that there's more comedic stuff you could have done if we could have expanded those zombies more.
Yeah, but I think what I'm getting at is that the fact of whether we're dealing with whatever technical version of the zombie, like we just stated for the first one, the zombies weren't the impetus. They wouldn't be the impetus here. It's still the character development that is the important part of this film. So like the whether or not I see level 2, 3, or 4 of the zombies, just like it did in the first one, doesn't affect me in this one because I'm more concerned about Tallahassee, Little Rock, and Columbus.
I mean, it's definitely not something that took away my enjoyment during the movie. It's something that afterwards
you think about
I
after
went,
the fact,
hey, wait a minute.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you're like, oh, well, I want to play in this world. If you're going to take the time to run me through this gambit.
Right, that was the
there
thing.
Was no
getting
real
this
payoff
whole
to know about these
speech and having it launch the movie, like instead of just having those scenes where
you guys
they
wanted
had
that
their
to be
nicknames for
you
the
guys wanted
creatures.
that to be a part of the climax. Basically,
or even just like not as like so focus driven in the beginning. Like I was told these things, and like you need to remember it. And it didn't matter.
You could have just been like, zombies are changing. Some are smart, some are dumb. But now there's this T-800 and moved on.
Which we don't like. That still comes at the midpoint of the movie. Even like we take
the
a
reveal
whole
of the
time
fourth,
to stop
the
and have
of
the
the fourth
characters
is
be
later.
like, "What are those?" And they dump it all on us there.
Yeah. But I do love the character beats. All the things I thought that was going to annoy me in the marketing of this movie didn't. Because leading up to it, I really did go, well, I'm not excited anymore. It's been too long. Mm-hmm. It is just going to be it's almost going to be a remake of the first movie, which it's not.
No.
But then we saw these like doppelgangers in the trailers, this ditzy blonde, and I just didn't want to fall into this like tropey trap. And really, each one kind of comes and goes quickly, almost as like a sketch.
It is like we don't sit in those characters.
Even what you said the character you didn't like. I actually ended up liking Madison a lot.
I was going to say both characters, both sets, like the Madison and then the two doppelgangers played by Luke Wilson, and I actually enjoyed.
What about Berkeley?
Yeah,
he kind of pissed me off. I was like, we're supposed to hate him.
But we're supposed to hate him because if we did not have an entire movie to love Eisenberg,
right,
we would hate him too, meeting him right off bat.
That's true.
But I think that's kind of the point.
The doppelganger scene for me just goes on too fucking long. It was really like
I think why it didn't bother me is because that action sequence in that Vegas room is freaking fantastic. The way they shoot that, like with the camera angle, it felt like is what Fleischer should be doing more often with action beats, because that was a pretty well shot.
This action?
And Venom,
fucker.
The
the goo will just fight the goo.
Right.
Watch
in the dark, you won't know what's going on.
But you're right, Madison. I wound up absolutely adoring. Like she became my favorite
thing
out of this.
She had the best bits that you can't like cut up and put in a trailer. Right. They're longer bits, or they're like callback jokes, or and the actress like that plays her like there was a lot of comedic timing that went into it, and it wasn't just like
being the dumb blonde. Like she had heart, she had moments, and like the whole. I don't want to give up the joke because it's funny, but her whole spiel about what to do for the future tech. I was like, oh shit, this is great. This is great. Yeah,
it's a surprisingly enjoyable movie to kind of go in, and to Blake's point, he's right. Like sequels that are made a whole decade after the original, like the odds are stacked against you, and like they always find some fans, but it's like, what kind of level bad was this going to be?
Right.
Is this going to be a super bad 2 where like the big fans love it?
Right.
Is this going to be like Zoolander 2 where nobody wants it?
You mean Super Troopers 2?
Super Troopers 2.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah.
I was like, there's a Superbad 2? I need to leave. Bye.
I went along with it. I was like,
Troopers
I
2.
do remember Superbad 2 being bad, but that film doesn't exist.
It's called Booksmart. Is what it is.
Yes,
it was
correct.
very good, but
And that
no
was
one
actually
saw
good.
it. A whole 10 years.
Yeah.
Look at my point. You couldn't even tell that the Bernie Feinstein was Jonah Hill's sister in that.
Right.
But they are. This was just a pleasant surprise because I think everyone was on board to be there.
Yeah.
Writing, directing, and that was the biggest thing that I think throttled the success of the first one. And like, even like I remember going into school on the Monday after the weekend, and the old secretary in the principal's office, like, my kids took me to Zombieland and it was fantastic. And it would be like the last person I'd expect to go see this movie. So that's what I'm interested in now.
Yeah.
Is will this have the same effect? Or is this the kind of thing where it's like everyone knows what this is? Those who wanted to see it will come and see it. There isn't going to be a lingering curiosity where the weeks and the kind of length of the box office exists. I think that it's going to have
it won't have. Because
right?
I mean, movies also didn't have movies on top of movies back a decade ago. Like, you kind of had room to breathe a little bit. That's not, they don't have that luxury
I bet
anymore.
if I pulled up that October, there really were other competing things, because I felt like Zombieland came out of nowhere.
It did.
And then stood at the top
For a while.
like into November, you
Yeah.
could still go see that movie.
Yeah.
Like close to Thanksgiving, they were still playing it. So I definitely a valid argument. I think as we progress, especially with streaming, there are so many other things to compete against. I feel like it's just staying power in general, because if it's not worth it and there's nothing next week, which I don't even think there is anything big.
I don't think anything next
There's
week's
not.
big as next week.
It'll be Jojo Rabbit going wide, and then Maleficent 2.
Right. Well, then it'll probably be Zombieland 2
2
again. My whole thing is, like, to what extent? Is it just a regular drops, or does this hang around? Because I think it has the potential to. The jokes are there. The originality is there.
It's a solid film to go into Halloween. Like, if you want a good time to go into Halloween, Zombieland 2 is a solid choice.
So to answer Zane's question of the weekend of it came out, October 2nd, 2009's new releases were Zombieland, Toy Story 1 and 2 in 3D, which was third at the box office that weekend.
Okay.
The Invention of Lying and Whip It, with Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs in its third week, Surrogates in its second, Fame in its second, nothing much. And the following weekend,
I was going to say, what about after that?
had Couples Retreat was the only big movie. Paranormal Activity was in fourth in its third week.
Oh, Couples
Cloudy in its
Retreat kind of
fourth.
stomped it. It dropped to 14.
And then it was Where the Wild Things Are, Law Abiding Citizen, and The Stepfather. And at that point, Zombieland had dropped to seventh, below Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs, The Stepfather, Couples Retreat.
So then I'm remembering,
but I know
with
it's
rose-colored glasses.
But I do know
being
it
a
stuck
bigger
around.
thing.
Like, it was
a cult hit.
It,
though. Like,
it made
everyone
100 million.
talked
That's
about
why I say it didn't stay at the top, but it was still chipping away at like 3 million here, 3 million, like when it should have been way.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
And then Saw 6 showed up.
Found a Life on DVD, and like I don't think that there's any age that doesn't know Zombieland in between that decade. I don't think like kids now who are just getting older, I feel like
Correct.
it's a big enough thing where they know. We didn't have to explain what Double Tap was.
Correct. Yeah. I feel like I feel like this and Scott Pilgrim are in that weird thing where they did. Well, Scott Pilgrim bombed at the box office, but I feel like they're in this weird thing where they found their life post.
They both have
theater.
very vocal fans.
Yeah.
Like both of those really found, because this was a time also where like nerd culture was gaining steam.
Correct.
So suddenly like zombies, video game movies, Iron Man had just come out that summer, Dark Knight had just shown up. We were kind of at the apex of
Before
that
we blew up.
pop culture shift into where we are now.
Yeah.
And I think that's where a lot of stuff like this and Scott Pilgrim lie is. We all kind of sit here like, well, that was it, and we had it, and it changed the game, and
Right.
it showed that we could do all these things and hit this mainstream audience. And then the seventh Saw movie would come out and it would stop mattering.
Yes.
It's also interesting because Ruben Weissler, like, after this he did 30 Minutes or Less.
And
then Gangster Squad. You'd think that after Gangster Squad's complete abysmal returns, we would have gotten Zombieland.
You think, right, that would have been his next thing.
I think at that point, though, the stars, I think Emma Stone was, like, impossible to
blown
get.
up.
Yeah, she blew up.
Yeah. And then I think Jesse Eisenberg has also...
He was because Social Network, so, like, he was...
So he was a player.
Right. And Woody's always been busy. Like, he's always doing something.
So it was not... but, like, in the way that these stories usually go, and the director needs to pitch back to the well hard, that's when it is.
Well, and I feel like...
He didn't really need to do this after Venom, but I think maybe this got started before they knew what Venom was going to do.
Yes.
Maybe around the time they were test screening Venom.
Right, because he was hearing word that this is going to be bad, but then the numbers came out. He's like, well, it's still in wood, but I want to go back home because I feel safer with what I know, what I started with.
It's definitely an IP that Sony's been interested in. They've talked there were going to be video games, there were going to be a TV show, the sequel. Like they never let this die, but I think its opening weekend that it did really just hit cult status never quite allowed itself, and with everybody else's busy schedule,
to green light immediately
until now.
Yeah. You're right.
So it's...
And also, I think they realized, too, to your point, they needed these 4 names.
Yeah.
You don't get to go and take this IP now and be like, and here's
Let's
all these
switch
other
out someone
characters.
else. Yeah.
No, I want Woody.
Yeah.
And I want the other 2 that I know.
Yeah.
And I think that was something that, like, has been... Because I remember there were rumors online dating back to a year ago when it was like, are we getting a Zombieland 2? Like, news is that they're, like, testing the movie somewhere and, like, and it's like, no, that's a rumor, but the movie is coming out and we're working on it. And so... I don't know. I think that they finally wised up and realized. I think the numbers will be representative of that, and maybe now, like look, this one definitely lends itself to have another one with a lot of these characters, even some of the ones they've introduced. Have a third one, then at that point, sure, then maybe that crackle idea for a show with the no names happens.
I mean, we'll see. We're recording this on Friday, so we don't really have good box office numbers.
Right.
I don't have its Thursday preview in front of me, but. We'll see how it does. There's a lot of hype behind it. Like, Joker's in its 3rd weekend. It's open against Maleficent and a light Jojo Rabbit. It could do really well. I'm really kind of curious, though. We know why now for the sheer mathematics of it, but if the zombie genre has always been a little more heady and challenging at its best, all the way back to, like, Night of the Living Dead, is there any reason to have this now other than it was popular in this?
And I think this movie's completely unnecessary.
Yeah.
I mean, like, for everything that I took away from it, I'm like, if this didn't come out, I'm not clamoring for it. I'm not sad I didn't get it. It's just like,
Well, especially because after the first one, when I saw it at the time that I saw it, I wanted it then. With a decade passing, I wasn't asking for this anymore. So, like, I definitely didn't need to go back to it. The same way with, like, I saw 3 from Hell from Rob Zombie. Those 2 movies, I'm just like, I was fine with the one film that I had. I did not need to go back to either of these worlds. In the same way with Zombieland 2, I was like, I don't need to be here. Mm-hmm. I'm glad that I'm here because I'm enjoying this time here.
They do a good enough job when it could have been lazy shit.
Correct.
They all could have just been lazy pieces of shit cashing checks, and they didn't do that.
Right. And I think the first one kind of wasn't that heady of a movie either, but it was kind of an innovation in the genre just to be funny.
Yeah.
So I think now, like, probably my second issue with it, because I did really like it. It kept me entertained the entire time. I laughed. I liked the character beats. Some of the action was awesome.
Yeah.
I genuinely, in the end, was like, oh, what's going to happen? Like, I don't really know how safe these characters are, and I liked that thrill. But I kind of did walk out being like, well, that was fun, but there's nothing really thought-provoking or interesting behind this. It just kind of exists.
Yeah.
So, I mean, is the challenge for the next one if they do it, or can we do this same trick a third time this close, or do we have to start kind of getting a little more challenging and...
Well, yeah, that's the thing. I mean, these movies are at their best when they're inside a national monument, making it their home and just smoking pot and recreating movies. Like, that's what this is. You know, they go to save the 2 characters who run away. And you know what? If they run away again, just let them go. When they ran away in the beginning of this one, which is the inciting, like, incident of the movie where it's like, they're gone. Oh, and then Emma Stone comes back to be like, my sister Little Rock is gone and we need to go get her. And I'm like, oh, and that's how this movie's going to go. I was just like, yeah, but, like, learn your lesson. You left them twice in the last movie. Now it's what's starting this movie. Who the fuck is going to leave in 3? because they're not going to get better than what they already are.
They're at the pinnacle of what they are.
Like the best franchise, in my opinion, or the best one that's dealt with it and doing more was World War Z. Because they had a shit ending, they were forced in a box and had to rewrite their way out of it. And in doing so, they did something that was so clever and it hadn't been done in the zombie genre ever.
Right.
This whole idea of like, they can sense someone with a disease and we can self-give ourselves something and work our way around it. That was innovative within the genre. That was like, it's not going to... And they end that movie by saying... This is only a temporary solution. Like, we have to continue to find the cure and find where this all started.
Right.
If it's going to go anywhere, I feel like it's more with that series. In this one, we should be doing, new things in comedy.
Well, you almost expand on where Shaun of the Dead ended, right? Where the first movie was the 4 people surviving. We don't know who else is out there, what else is out there. Now we've built this world and we have the commune and Elvis's place, and we know there are people around and they're living in all these different ways.
Yeah.
So the next logical step is the rebuilding of society. And I like Shaun of the Dead's comedic take on we put them in bland labor. Would the next thing then finding the jokes in the types of zombies and what you can do with that to build a new society.
Sure.
The next step, which is always... And that's almost the problem, right? Is we are hitting now this is just what a zombie movie does.
You're just in zombie.
First the world is empty, then it's not that empty, then it's restarting, and we go home.
Right.
Or it starts again, and I'm like, then we're just doing the new T-800 thing, and we're back at this table in 4 years complaining about why they still were unable to make these zombies different from each other, and why I was just like, that all just felt unnecessary.
Yeah.
But I had fun. It wasn't like I was really pissed off when I left.
Right.
And look, there's nothing wrong with laughing at a movie and being like, it was funny and it was good. It's just...
Yeah.
I think if we're going to sit on a podcast and really discuss it, it's worth being like, sometimes movies just exist.
Yeah, especially the genre of comedy. I feel like, we've had some heady comedies, like Good Boys is a little heady, and Booksmart is definitely something, but I think we all, especially all of us come from a time when sometimes comedies were just stupid, freaking fun comedies. That's what they were there. They were there for.
Which is unfortunate because those ones, though, when they build up too big, they are just dumb.
Correct.
So that's where I'm like, if we do this a third time, are we just going to get to this?
Correct.
Ridiculous.
Right.
Yeah.
And what we'll all want is a scene with just the 4 of them. And not all of these new characters,
right.
which is why they balanced it so well.
They did a good job.
There was going to be now I got to watch Luke Wilson fight next to Woody Harrelson. It's like we've moved them off the board and taken care of them.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's just good writing because they remembered who the 4 characters were.
Right.
And although they all kind of acted the exact same way they acted in the first movie. There was no real growth.
I would say that Little Rock, just because she's older, has probably the most different case of being. She's a slightly different person.
With her though. We kind of
she's off the board for a lot. Yeah, she's off the board for a lot of the movie.
And my other thing was so we've gone in this franchise. We've seen Bill Murray's mansion.
Yes.
We take over the White House, which Blake brought up a good point when we left the movie. He said, are other now that we know that there are other people in this world, are they not trying to live in the White House? They're the first ones to break in the White House in over 10 years.
I did think that someone would try to abscond upon the White House while they were there.
So
it seems like one of the first places you would go.
Exactly. Yeah. Right. And so that was a little unclear. And then my whole other thing was so they talk up Graceland. We talk up Graceland. We've talked up Elvis and Graceland since the first movie.
Right.
Then they get to Graceland, and because no one's been there, they don't even bother to go inside. And it's a type of thing where I'm like, well, this is bullshit.
But it looked like it was broken down and decayed down.
No, they were just no one's been here. There's no one here. She's not here.
The plants were overgrown, and you just kind of see the building in the shadow.
But to the same extent, the White House was.
Yeah.
So you think the inside of it is still Elvis's mansion. We could do a lot of stuff in there. Instead, it ends up being a motel history museum down the road, which I'm cool with. But the whole thing was just have them get there and the mansion's burned down. Have it be that someone tried to
zombies.
have someone try to take
over.
Great
place for the ninja zombie.
Gotcha.
You
know what's funny? I think the way that I saw it, I saw that it was decrepit. That's why I was, they can't go in there because I thought it was broken down and burnt. The way that I looked at it on the screen, I thought it was already decrepit, and that's they can't actually.
He's right. There's no.
And they cut to it for a second, but they don't really show it that much, and I just thought it was it looked like it was uninhabitable for 4 people to live in.
It just was
Or 3 people.
Their guiding point. Like, it's like,
Correct.
we're going to Graceland. Well, where is she going? She says she wants to go to Graceland. We have to get to Graceland. Then they get to Graceland, and it's like, we're not going to do Graceland.
And also, the other way that they could get out of that too is because they were looking for the car because Little Rock had his vehicle. So if that wasn't there at Graceland, they're like, well, we know she's not here.
He's still the craziest Elvis fan in the world and is down at
Correct.
the motel.
No, I agree.
In the clothes, everything else. I'm like, well, okay, now that we have all this, we're not going to go check out Graceland before we leave?
For
like,
20 minutes?
Or even come back at the end and have it be like, I didn't get to fucking check out Graceland. Like, they're driving around in a pink Cadillac at the end as a whole homage to that.
Yeah.
And that annoyed me as an Elvis fan. It's a very small thing.
Well, I think it's just another moment where had the movie been longer, because I will say, kind of again against the movie, but it did that thing where every conflict to me was resolved very quickly. Where it's like, we just got to Graceland, they weren't there, and then we turned the corner and there's the beast.
And there they are, right.
And then it's like, well, did they say where they were going? No, but the guy wouldn't shut up about it. Now we'll just go there.
Right.
And I was like, well, there's never, even like Little Rock's arc, she just has been like into this guy this entire time.
And then she quickly flips.
And then it's like, I knew you were
You're a
bullshitting
poser.
about not writing those songs. You're a poser. And I'm like, well, then to what end were you doing this?
Especially since on the road she was.
Well, here's the thing.
saying,
You've now left your sister, and you're now with this guy. You're not just gonna be like, oh, this was a mistake. I'm gonna leave.
You've gone so far. You wrote the note and left your sister. Yeah, you're in it.
She snuck the gun in. I buy. She snuck the gun.
I do too, because they weren't wanding. They don't.
Good point.
Yeah.
Very easy.
And even as a joke, which it's like it's a whole setup, is they're going to a commune without any guns. Of course, the zombies break into said commune, and she has a weapon that Woody Harrelson gave to her in the beginning, which was the pistol that Elvis gave to Nixon.
Yes.
And her whole thing is because she's been smoking pot with this guy. It's like, honestly,
I completely forgot that I had
the gun.
And then he was like, an apple of my own. He was like,
fair.
He's like an apple
because
of
at the
my own
end of
heart.
the day, you're right. This is a comedy, and they're filling the movie out to be the best comedy it can be, and
that's
not
their
the
point
best
first.
horror zombie movie, and that's why I think we're there as fans that are totally fatigued with zombies. They come out with another zombie movie that isn't attached to an IP. I'm not gonna go.
Right.
I have no interest.
Attached to IPs. I'm like,
Even if it's like the Walking Dead film, I don't even watch the show. I don't want to watch it.
And I love like the little jab that they gave to the Walking Dead. Like he's reading the comments like, this is completely unrealistic.
Completely unrealistic. Or and it's what I didn't like, but it's true. He's just like, coming back for seconds after 10 years. Well, we thank you for visiting Zombieland because we know out of all of your zombie gratification, there's a lot of different things to choose from. It's like, oh, shut the fuck up. It was like in the first few seconds where I'm like, oh god, I'm about to hate this movie, and then I didn't.
No, there were some genuinely very clever jokes.
There are some clever jokes in there.
I don't want to ruin it. I don't want.
No, I don't want to ruin any of the jokes because here's the
here.
thing: they're using the majority of them in the trailers.
They are,
but then when you see them, they're recut better. And they're two different people. And
you guys stayed through the credits, correct?
We didn't. Okay,
we saw the Bill Murray tag.
Got it.
Shut up! No, he's already in the trailer. Like
they show that in the spot.
But what you should know is that it's not until after. But I want to ask you: does that scene end? And is there like a final one at the very end?
I don't know. I don't.
We left
too.
Yeah, not that I'm hearing of. I think it's just that.
Which it's great because, we'll speak on it because you can't not have Bill Murray in the second one. Even though you killed him, I was like, he's going to show up as a zombie.
Well, especially since Rosario's character brings that situation up. So I'm like, okay, now you have to at least go somewhere back to Bill Murray.
Well, that's great because that's even to a Woody Harrelson, Bill Murray movie, and Kingpin was like, you Munson someone. Yeah. So he got Murrayed. I was like, oh, this is fucking great.
Yeah, it is.
And I was like, what's going to happen? And then, ultimately, we've talked about it enough. He's at a press junket for Garfield 3.
It's one of the for you to get
the day exactly. It's one of the journalists or the.
We all know how hard it is to round up Bill Murray to do anything. So to get Bill Murray to do that scene,
Bill Murray was in 2 zombie movies this year. Yeah. This and The Dead Won't Die, which I absolutely hated.
Yeah.
But I love Bill Murray, so it's like watching him as a joy.
Right.
And just seeing
I'm
him
just
take
smiling
a chair,
from.
it was like a WWE.
It was
fantastic.
Scene. Yeah. It was so well done.
And just and I just read today that it was it's great. You got a great 2-minute and 30-second bit, but we have to realize that was a 6-hour day for Bill.
Yeah,
that was 6 hours of just straight improv. It's like we have just hours of him saying crazy
random
shit
lines from his history of filmography.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
Just this is great. Yeah, I was smiling from ear to ear. I was like, and that's one of those ones. Cause sometimes movies do that code at the end when it's cheap. You're like, oh, the movie wasn't funny, but we're gonna add this extra beat to remind you of go out on a high. This is one of those ones where it's like, oh, the movie was funny, and this just took me out. I was like, oh, now I'm even happier because I just got to see Bill Murray act the fool.
Yeah, it's a filling meal. It does what it promises to do. In that when you go, it doesn't pull any cheap punches, especially with the marketing. With it's like, oh well, we've completely taken every joke out of this. There's nothing here to enjoy, and you can watch it. Is it completely unnecessary? Yeah, we didn't need this movie.
Right.
Yeah.
Do you want, this will be my last question, do you want a third one now, or are we...
I did until you started talking, and now I'm just like, yeah, what are we gonna do? Oh, we have to rebuild, and it becomes like arguing like, oh, who does Tallahassee gonna have sex with? And like, who's, like, I don't want to watch that. And then eventually it has to be about the zombies. It would have to be for a comedic purpose. Like, they'd have to, like, find a Carnival cruise ship, like, we're going on the seas! And then there's zombies on a boat, and I don't fucking know. Like, that would be more plausible than a World War Z follow-up.
Why don't we just go to an island?
Yeah, we just go to an island.
Well, they talk about that. I'm like, are we going to be on an island?
Part of them said Mexico or an island. Yeah.
And it's like, oh, well, these zombies have found a way to just, like, walk through water, and now they're showing up all Pirates of the Caribbean. But
swimming zombies.
Can Sony afford to pay to have these 4
now 5 if Rosario's a part of that team,
and then like
you can write her off just as easily as Heather Graham and an Austin Powers,
and then you also got to bring back Bill Murray because this is
now he's a part of this. He's in this now. Yeah.
And then they would just be watching Garfield 3 on the boat.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, that would be great.
This is his last.
This is his last film before someone shot him. Rosario's like, I think it was you. Because that never got resolved. That never got resolved.
That's totally true. But it's like, to what end?
Yeah.
What it would. Like,
it's
I
bits
don't want
on
it to
bits.
become stale. Now I'm like, okay, there are 2 decent movies. This isn't like Zoolander. I keep saying Zoolander. Anchorman to some people.
Zoolander and Zoolander 2.
Bad sequel, so that's perfectly
so it
acceptable.
is like, like we just, we don't want to even talk about 2. It's like, you can talk about Zombieland 2.
Yeah.
It should go up next to the other one.
It's like a B-side.
It is. They're hand in hand. Yeah.
Yeah. But 3?
I don't know if you can go to this well a third time. However, if he does something as bad as Venom and it doesn't make money, he's like, guess what, guys? Zombieland 3.
He's a producer on Venom 2, which will have Carnage and Shriek.
Which will make money.
It will. It'll make so much money.
This is going to make so much money. They will probably do another one of these. And it'll be just as, like, irrelevant, and it will be half as funny, probably.
Look, if we have 3 Has Fallen movies.
This is a sloppy fucking movie.
We have 3 Has Fallen movies. We can have 3 Zombieland.
Yeah, but look at so like the Fallen movies though, that's like exploitation action. Now we grew past it because Aaron Eckhart wasn't the president, right? It becomes Morgan Freeman and this and that, and now it's about the character and his story. So you don't really do that with an ensemble comedy like that. You would just do another ensemble comedy. There are now more people involved, which means you have to split up the screen time.
Yeah.
And how many more zombie kill of the years and just like car jokes are we gonna just get through?
I think we had spent so much time not being around this style of comedy that when we got it again, like, oh yeah, that is fun. But I don't know if we want that to go back another 2 years, like another 2 years.
Push Woody Harrelson around in a wheelchair? Yeah, no thanks.
Tallahassee.
Yeah, no, we won't be doing any of that. It made $2.8 million for its Thursday preview.
And do we know what that was compared to the first one?
It doesn't have
I know.
There's just so many ads on Deadline. It's just hard to even get through it.
This is going to be a hard week for it, though, because I do think Maleficent's going to do pretty decent.
It will. It's good counter programming, in my opinion. I think Addams Family has more to worry about from Maleficent than anything else.
Addams Family was probably drop off.
How quick they were to reboot or announce Addams Family 2. The Saturday after the opening,
they're like, we're not waiting till next week.
Here comes the sequel. It's well, shit.
Yeah, we're not waiting until next week because those numbers are going to drop off.
I really think that Zombieland will fare fine into next weekend. I think it will even still be in the top 5 for when Terminator Dark Fate debuts, which I just don't think is going to do quite as well on a box office note.
Terminator, you don't think will?
No. Gotcha. I don't. I think too many people have been burned by that one. Zombieland.
Yeah.
Zombieland has enough of a risk to go. Wow, let's see if they fuck me over. It's like when you go to a Sony movie. It's like, how bad are they gonna fuck me right now while I'm about to watch this? And you get away with it sometimes, like this one.
Yeah.
This is probably one of the
better
there was
things.
Another one. Far From Home. But that's
Yes,
not
that's
them.
not- yeah.
That's not them. That's somebody else doing your homework and putting
Jumanji
your
is the
name
one
on
thing
it.
they can hang their hat on. Like, we've done well here.
Yes, again, but that's based off of an existing thing that was theirs when they
That's
bought
all
it
they're
at
cranking
Columbia
out.
Price. So,
That's all they're cranking out.
That's all MGM and everyone else is doing too.
Yeah.
It's great for your podcast. You guys must
we'll
be
be
swimming in business right
You
now.
would think. Anyways, that's the show. Leave us a review on iTunes and follow us on Facebook and Twitter at facebook.com/group/Hollywood already did it and Hollywood ADI. I'm at, as always, Blake. Zane's at Z Goes Elderly and Terrence is at Terrence Tatum, and we will see you next week.
Later.
Bye.
Yeah.
Bye.
Yeah.
Bye.